Welcome to Do It in Durham 2021. Now in its 9th year, Do It in Durham is an event series that takes place during Global Entrepreneurship Week. It is Durham Region's own forum to celebrate, inspire, and support entrepreneurship. Stay tuned as we bring on our presenter.
All to kind of connect, become best friends and support each other in entrepreneurship. So a little bit about Do It in Durham. It takes place during Entrepreneurship Week and is Durham Region's own forum to celebrate, inspire and support entrepreneurship. This year, our theme is riding the waves. Just like surfing, small business is a little bit like riding the waves. We have ups, we have downs, we have to fight the sharks, find the perfect wave. It's all about timing. It's all about paddling at the right time. And that's the idea. Obviously, during this recent time, this is what it's been like, a little bit riding the waves. And that's what entrepreneurship's a little bit like. But you have the support system around you to help you get through it. So really, it's what we've done here in Durham Region is this event series is a collaboration of organizations and resources for businesses in Durham Region in partnership with business owners and entrepreneurs sharing their expertise. And today we have Casey from Triad Group HQ. I'm just going to hand it over to her. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I really appreciate the welcome. I'm so glad to be here. It's my business partner, Karen, we're both Karen, which is why we go by KK and KC. We were doing some work with Teresa and she's like, oh, you have to come and talk at our Do It in Durham week. And we were so thrilled to be here. So I'm speaking today, Karen speaks Thursday, and we're both speaking together on Friday. And there's such great topics and speakers here this week. So really, really excited to be here. I'm always pleased to see when people take the time to invest in themselves and to show up for these kinds of things and to have an opportunity to connect in and maybe get a little nugget or two to take with you on your journey today. So I thought I would start with a little story. So our marketing people, we're talking about pricing for prosperity, creating a profitable business that supports your prosperous life. And so we've obviously in our business have talked a lot about pricing, about how we set up our offerings, how we set up, there's been lots of conversation in our business. And then every once in a while, something happens that surprises you. So our marketing team sent us that we had asked them to do one sheets for our speaking. And they sent us these one sheets, and along the bottom, they had put in pricing for an hour, a 3-hour talk, so I guess an hour, a half day, and a full day talk. And when we received this one sheet, Karen and I were kind of blown away by the pricing that they had just put the pricing on that they figured we probably were going to want. And we were kind of blown away by the pricing that they had put on the one sheet. It was much higher than we had been anticipating. And I'm not even sure we had sort of numbers in our head, and it came back and both of us were like, wow, this is how they see us. This is how they perceive us. And that was a great eye opener for us. And it just reminded us that when we charge appropriately for the work that we do, we actually have more choice because we can support more clients. We can support clients in a deeper way. And it just made me think about, that happened. And when I was putting this talk together, I thought, oh, that is exactly what we're talking about here today, is how do we put ourselves out there in the world in a way that we're representing ourselves, how people perceive us, and also that we're getting paid appropriately and fairly for what we do, and that it supports our life. Because that is the whole point of our business, right? Is to support our life. So that's where we're starting off today. And I would love if you guys, did we get the chat sorted, Andrea? Yep. Okay, cool. I would love if you guys in the chat would pop in here. Why are you here? Why did you pick this talk? You have loads of, I'm sure, work to do in your world, loads of things on your schedule, and you chose to show up for this talk. And I would love to know, why are you here? Was there something in the write-up? Are you going to every single one? And why are you here? Why did you pick this one? What are you hoping to get out of today? And if you just type it into the chat, that'd be awesome. Hey, I'd love to understand how to ensure a prosperous life. I want to learn how I can start a small business. We got Ken here. It was the title. Awesome. So excellent. Love learning. So you're looking for that nugget, that's something you can take with you. Excellent. Pricing is important, especially post-pandemic for sure. Hoping to create a profitable business. It could be, oh, I love that. Be extremely that word. Give away a lot of good stuff. Ken's here for his starter business. Good. Jay doesn't want to underprice herself. That's really awesome. It's good to be aware. Oh, and Kathy picked one session and she wanted to make sure that she can keep doing what she's doing. So the bottom line is crucial for sure. We want to understand pricing, want to understand how to price what you're offering. This is great. So there's people starting out in their business. There's people that are maybe a little bit further along. There's some curiosity and interest around the sort of prosperity pricing process. So I'm going to show you that today. We're going to talk about sort of why should you care? What do you need to be aware of? And there's going to be some really good resources in here. And then I'll share with you some where you can go and get some more information. Fabulous. Thank you so much. And I always love when people actually engage on the chat. So yay. And it sounds like people are going to a number of different sessions this week. That's great. Yeah, loads of people here. I love it. Thank you. Okay. So here's the thing. Entrepreneurs tend to hope for revenue and then they try and fit their life inside whatever comes. This is a pretty typical micro business approach. Let's put ourselves out there, let's charge what we're charging, and let's keep our fingers crossed that what we have come in can pay for some sort of lifestyle. And then they sort of jam their life inside of whatever revenue they have available to them. And instead, what you can do is you can actually embrace your financials. You can embrace your data. We're going to talk about making friends with your data. You can actually get to know your numbers, because one of the things, and you know, I'm always interested to see who shows up for these talks that have anything to do with money, because that's always, you know, it can be a trigger for people. And so today we're going to talk about how do you make friends with your money? How do you make friends with your data so that you can be in a place where you can make great decisions around your money? So entrepreneurs can choose to embrace those financials and set their business up so that it can fund a prosperous life. Entrepreneurs really are, you know, what I'm hearing when I talk, when I'm out speaking, when I'm interacting, when I'm connecting with entrepreneurs, they really are ready to have a business and a life that support each other. And they're looking for expanded skills and perspectives so that they can enhance their own life and embrace their data. So that's kind of where we're at, is what do you need to know? What do you need to be thinking? What perspectives do you need? And then what sort of tactical things do you need to do in order to be able to create a pricing modality that's really going to serve your business and your life? Let me tell you a little bit about me and why I have anything to say about this. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I am from my parents were entrepreneurs, my grandparents were entrepreneurs, and I've been an entrepreneur for more than 20 years. So I've got some experience with it, but I grew up in this entrepreneurial family where I watched entrepreneurs be successful. And so I assumed entrepreneurship meant success, because that's the experience that I had in my family growing up. My parents did a great job with it. And my dad actually stopped teaching when I was 12, and they started a business. So I had seen that sort of transition into the business world and watched them be successful. And so when I started my own business, I just figured that's how it worked. And what I ended up doing was actually buying myself a job. And that was a drag, because it meant that I was really sort of tied into the sort of the structure of this business that I had built, that was not really supporting me. And it caused me to do a lot of learning about this whole sort of world. How do I create a pricing model that's actually going to work for me so that I can create the kind of business and the kind of life that I want? I've been a money coach for 10 years. I was a financial advisor. I had so many clients who were living paycheck to paycheck, even though they were making great money. And so I sold my practice and started being a money coach and working with mostly couples where at least one of them was an entrepreneur, and helping them to create a kind of money life in their business and their personal world that was really going to suit them and be sustainable and helpful for them. What I really wanted to do is help build a bridge between their business and their personal life so that the two were separate and also connected in together. I'm just taking a look at here, some of the chat here. Okay, so that was what I was working on. And so I've had a lot of experience working with entrepreneurs, with myself, and also with other people who are really looking to create this successful business inside of a successful life. I've also taught Pricing for Prosperity, where this talk is based on. It's actually a course that I've been teaching for more than 5 years with a local, to me, I'm in Barrie, with a local organization that supports startups. So I've been teaching this for quite a long time. Entrepreneurs struggle with feeling overwhelmed, with feeling unworthy of charging, right? Somebody had mentioned that they're wanting to be able to charge what they're worth. And there's a tendency to discount and not price the full value, especially with service businesses. It's a little bit easier with products because there's an underlying value, right? Because you had to purchase the product or make the product. When it comes to service, it's hard to get out of our own heads and price appropriately so that we're really showing up and that our people can have the experience that they're looking for. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where people start. So this is where many people start, right? The proverbial ostrich with the head in the sand, which unfortunately means your butt's up in the air, which is not a great place. There's a real tendency to ignore the numbers, ignore the money. We've been taught sort of through culturally that money is hard, that numbers are hard. And then if you're, depending on where you grew up and how you grew up, if you're a woman, there's an additional layer, which through the 60s, 70s, and 80s was still a thing about math, and women not going together, which is just unfortunately not true. Well, fortunately, it's not true. It's unfortunate that still gets taught. And so part of where we want to go from here is to really connect in with where are you now and where do you want to be? Now, if this is not you, awesome. Congratulations. You're the exception to the rule. Most people are really sitting in what I call the ignore and panic cycle. So this is where we, stick our fingers in our ears and go la, 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 and then until something blows up. And then we, in a panic, do all the things that we need to do to figure it out. And then we go back to ignoring. And we cover our eyes and we plug our ears, and then we wait till the next crisis, and then we do whatever we need to do in order to get it back to the point where we can ignore it again. The challenge is getting off of this cycle, because this is not great in your personal world. And often if you're doing it in your personal world, you're doing it in your business world and vice versa. And it's really a challenge in your business world because it doesn't allow you to have the choice that you want, to be able to make the decisions that you want in your business. And so what we want to do is get you off the ignore and panic cycle. So one of the things that we really want to look at is, how does pricing impact your business? How is it perceived? How does it successfully fund your life? And one of the first things that we want to do here is make friends with your data. Now, for many years, as I mentioned, I was a money coach. I did a ton of work with families. And I realized that I kept saying to my clients, you just got to make friends with your money. And, people would laugh, but they got it, right? Like, what happens when you make a friend, right? How do you start creating a relationship? You start by getting to know each other, right? You start to share. What else do you do when you start building a friendship? How do you build a new friendship or a new relationship? You can pop something into the chat. Yeah, you talk about stuff. You get to know each other. What else? Check in regularly. You're not in fear because you know that person's got your back, right? You're asking questions. What else? Asking questions about them. Exactly. And it's not just all about you, right? You're sharing with yourself and you're asking questions about them. And all of that builds trust, right? That's really what we're looking for when we build a friendship, right? We listen, we ask, we share, and making follow-up, staying in contact. These are all really important things. Now, probably not you guys. It's probably not you guys, but some people, when they think about their relationship with their money, are more like frenemies, right? They kind of take advantage. They ignore them unless they need them. There's really a lot of come here, go away, right? There isn't this development of a relationship where you're sharing and getting to know and understanding and building trust and knowing that they've got your back and staying in contact and following up. There is a lot of this ignore and panic where we really ignore our money and our data in our business until there's a decision to make or a crisis that we're in or oh my gosh, we have to pay that bill. How are we going to do it? And instead, when we listen and work in cooperation, like you're saying, it allows you to build a really different relationship with your money, with your business, with your data. I'm working with a client right now who is a business. It's about 18 months old. She's grown very rapidly. She is in an enviable position that she actually has more clients than she has time for, which is a really nice place to be, except that it's just as challenging. And what we're doing is we're setting up systems so that she can plan forward. She doesn't have an accountant she's working with or a bookkeeper. And when she asked about it, I said, you absolutely want that because they're going to help you maintain your records. They're going to help you understand what's happened. They're going to make sure that you connect with the government in the way that you need to, all of that. We also want you to be planning forward because bookkeepers and accountants look backwards. They're looking at what's already happened. And we want to plan forwards. And that's where we really get this opportunity to make friends with our data or to make friends with our money, where we start to look forward. What do we want to do? What decisions need to be made? How do we plan forward? So, and there's a tendency when we're heads down in business to look, 30 days out, when we really need to be looking 60, 90, sometimes, 360 days out. Like, where do we want to be 3 months, 5 months, 10 months from here? And when we are only looking at today or what's happened already from any reports we're getting from our bookkeepers, it doesn't give us the opportunity, this space to be able to make decisions with where we are now and where we want to go. So getting off the ignore and panic cycle, getting to know your numbers. So how many people have read the EMyth Revisited? Anybody read that one? No, I've got some nods. I've got a few, we've got some yeses. Excellent. The Bible, someone says, that's great. It's a great little book. Andrea, I don't know if you can type that in for me, but it's called The EMyth Revisited, and it's by Michael Gerber. It's kind of an old one. But one of the reasons I love it is Michael talks about wearing different hats in your business and having a CEO hat on and a manager hat and a technician hat. And we're all pretty good at the technician hat. That's usually why we got into, thank you. It's why we got into our business usually, is because we're really good at doing the doing of our business. The challenge is when we don't put on our manager hat to look at how our business is running and whether we're meeting a budget, if we even have a budget, if like, or whether we're getting the results that we want, or if we don't put our CEO hat on that says, where do we want to be? How do we want to create our strategy? Those two hats are really critical when you're looking at data, because it allows you to look from a different perspective. So I have a friend who, she and her husband have a business, and when they sit down to do their meetings, they actually sit in different seats at the table, depending on what role they're in, and they talk about the people, I'm using air quotes intentionally, they talk about the people in the business in the third person, even though it's just the two of them. So they'll say, well, how's Jeff doing in his role as, IT guy? What does he need? And so they're looking at it from the perspective of a CEO or a manager and saying, what does this technician need? And this allows them to make new decisions around how their business is running. So putting on the CEO hat or the manager hat allows you to look at your numbers in a different way. When we're in the technician role, all we're looking at is, did I get the project done? Did I serve the client? Did I put the invoice in? When we step back into this manager or CEO role, it allows us to have a broader perspective. And this is one of the things that we want to look for, right? Is how do we create new and broader perspectives to get better to know our own information, our own numbers. And this allows us to build a new relationship with our money. So having a team of people in your world is really important. So you want the financial people, whether you need a money coach, that sort of depends on where you are, that might be helpful. Whether you need, you probably want a bookkeeper or an accountant or a combo, because they're going to do the reporting and help you make sure you're in connection with the government well and properly, and that you're doing your remittances and doing all that stuff. And they're also going to be able to create reports that allow you to look forward. You want to also have somebody who has your back, somebody who is a trusted colleague or a friend that you can talk to when you feel like you're losing your mind. Because entrepreneurship is a challenge. And there are times where you need to toss an idea around, where you need to be able to, just have a little wail or a cry or whatever you need to do. And, one of the challenges is we always put I'm doing great hat on as an entrepreneur. How are things? Oh, they're good, they're good, they're good. Right. And so we need to have people in our world that we can really, we know they have our back. And so make sure in your team that you've got somebody that you can talk to about anything to do with your money and your business, because that will allow you to be willing to be vulnerable and ask the more challenging questions. Okay, so in the chat, if you have any of those people in your world, a bookkeeper, a money coach, somebody, a friend, somebody on your money team, just put a yes or a yay or a I'm in or something in the chat. You don't have to have them all. So we've got some yeses, we've got some nos. Okay, good. It sounds like some people have some people in their world. If you don't, this is where, and we're going to talk a little bit about, success habits and some strategies before we wrap up today. But if you don't have anybody in your money world, on your money team, it's a really good place to start, is to find, who do you need to support you as you're making these decisions. All right. So, let's talk about our second sort of big area. So this is the how. This is my little process on how to look at your pricing in a little bit different way, and how to build your pricing to support your life, not just your business. So we have a tendency to build there's one person said, no, not yet. At what point do you need one? I'm new to entrepreneurship. Great question. So what I would do is, excuse me, start by using the resources at the Small Business Center, right? Go talk to Andrea and her team, and they'll be able to help you as a brand new entrepreneur. They'll be able to help you with some of the initial, what do I need to know? They've got great tools and resources that will help you to build out some of the plans. Like maybe you want to do a 1 year or a 3 year plan. And I know that my experience with my local small business center has been excellent. They've done a lot of support on that. So that's where I would start. And then as you start to understand where you are in your new business, then you can see when you need to add an additional sort of direct person. It may be that you want to have a bookkeeper right away. It may be that you don't need that immediately. Oh, and one little personal pet peeve I have is that people tend to delegate the thing that they're most uncomfortable with, which for many people is their money. And so they hand off everything to their bookkeeper, thinking that that's actually going to help them manage their business finances long term, which yes, it will. But remember, they only look backwards. Bookkeepers, for the most part, don't look forwards. They're not really doing planning. And so you want to make sure that you can look both ways. Okay, I'll get off that soapbox. That's what it's called. All right, so you want to build your pricing to support your life, not just your business. So let's talk a little bit about what happens when you create your pricing. Most small businesses, most particularly micro entrepreneurs, will choose their prices in a couple of ways. It might be habit based on, sort of what you've seen, what you've purchased elsewhere. It might be by peer pressure, and that includes your industry's peer pressure. Some industries sort of have set prices or set bands of prices. And also we tend to do it by what do we feel comfortable with? And, how much can I ask when, before I start feeling like I'm going to throw up a little, right? And this is often how we choose our pricing. When in reality, what we want to do is take a little bit more systematic approach to our pricing, in that we want to say, well, what do we need to be generating in our business? And then how do we backtrack that to an actual rate that we can charge? So let's talk a little bit about this. Most people, when they start with their pricing, they look at a couple of things. They say, okay, well, how much does it cost me to run my business? And then what am I going to be able to afford to take out of my business? And they kind of say, okay, well, that's how much I need to make. And they've forgotten that there's a whole bunch of other pieces. And we don't really get taught this stuff. So, just for a moment, think about all of the money messages you've got in your world. I know this is a whole other conversation, but just think about the money messages you've got in your world. Unless you came up in a family with entrepreneurs that did really well and that understood how it worked, you probably don't have any of the sort of knowledge that you need around business finances. So you're going to want to fill that gap. And you may have a whole bunch of less than awesome money messages that you got as a young person in your family. And honestly, it's the reason is because our parents didn't learn it either. And so generally they didn't know what to teach us. They were struggling with finances themselves, whether they had a little bit of money or a lot. Most people they feel dumb about money. I've worked with people in the personal finance world for 20 years, and it doesn't matter how smart people are, they generally feel dumb about money. And so if this is you, I just want to say, A, you're not alone. B, it's okay. And C, you can learn the things that you need to learn, and just start by getting super curious instead of feeling like we have a tendency to feel ashamed or embarrassed or any of that. just know that you're not the only one out there, and whoever you're asking probably didn't know at some point either, and they've done their learning. The reason I'm so good at this is because I've screwed it up a lot. And so I know what to do. And so I just want you to just give yourself some space to recognize that if this is how you're currently building your pricing, that's okay. And it's not serving you. So let's talk about how we can do it differently. Okay, so we start like, okay, how much does it cost me to run my life? What can I afford to take out? And then sometimes then we go, okay, actually I need to make sure I can like pay the rent or pay the mortgage and, you know, put food in the fridge. So then we go, okay, I need basic operating expenses plus basic personal expenses. And that's how much I need to make. And I go, okay, well, that's fine for a super short period of time while you're in like massive startup, but that's not sustainable. Like that's a few months while you're like head down, brand new business. This is not sustainable long term. And so we want to go beyond this. This is not the approach that we want to take. So let's talk about some of the things that we haven't considered in this model. Whole bunch of business stuff. What if you want to do a new marketing strategy? What if you have a big opportunity come up that you need to be able to put some money towards, right? I had an opportunity to speak on someone else's stage, but I had to pay for it. I'm like, well, where's that money coming from, right? What about profit for growth, right? How are you going to build your business if you're just squeaking by? What about stuff in your house? Do you want to go on a holiday? Do you want to pay for your kids' education? Maybe you want to do a reno, right? These are things that we don't think about when we're stuck in this very small pricing mentality. So let's talk about how we do it differently. The very first thing you want to do is basic personal expenses plus your business operating expenses, and this will give you your bare minimum. So this is like, if my business cannot sustain this, then I need to rejig how my business is working, right? So that's your very first goal is, what do I need to pay like my basic personal expenses, that sort of austerity plan, right? Like pay the mortgage, put food in the fridge, you know, put gas in the car, these kinds of things, plus whatever I need to pay for operating my business. That's your minimum, but that's not where we stop. Okay, the next row is, okay, now what do I want to have in my lifestyle, right? And you might not in your first year or two of your business be doing, 3-week trips to Australia, but, you could plan to go to the cottage, right? So these are some things that, but we forget this when we're in this head down, how do I make this world work mentality? So what do I want my life to look like? Paying the government's important. I don't know if you've ever had to deal with CRA, but this is one of the mistakes I haven't made, to be clear. I have done a good job of interacting with CRA, but that doesn't mean I've always had it all together. I've usually, when it's been a challenge, I've been pretty good at, pulling stuff out of the air when I needed it. But this piece is super important. Set your HST aside, set money aside for CPP and your income tax. Set that stuff aside, but you need to keep that in mind in your pricing, because sometimes we just think, oh, well, all the revenue coming in I've got available. Well, if you collect HST, some of that's not yours. So we want to have that as part of the larger plan. And then we want to look at, how do we want to have a business buffer and a growth fund? And all of this together is going to add up to the total annual revenue that's required in your business. From there, you can do a bunch of stuff with that number. You can look at how many billable hours you have, and then you can get a billable hour rate. You can look at how many products you're selling, and you can look up at a markup rate. There's lots of things you can do once you know what you need your business to earn. But most people do not go through this process. And when they don't go through this process, then what ends up happening is they get stuck. They get stuck in this ignore and panic cycle, because it always feels like money's hard. It always feels like there isn't enough, and we don't know how to solve it. And it may be that you need to go back to what are you charging? How are you charging it? We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. Okay, now, I see people writing madly. I'm happy to send you these slides. A lot of the slides don't have much on them, but this little series does. So if you want the slides, just pop your email, name and email in the chat, and I'll make sure that they get to you. Okay, so we've got this game plan. You've gone through the process of figuring out what you need to actually earn and therefore how much you need to charge. What's the next step? So, and please understand, this is a 1 hour conversation. This is a much larger conversation, and it is a process. And I do help people with this process. I'm going to tell you how in a slide or two. So if you're looking for a bit of support on this, I'm happy to talk about that. So let's talk about raising prices and sales conversations for a moment, because this is often where people freak out. They're like, okay, I've done the math. I've got to know my numbers. Now I know I need to raise my prices or change how I'm offering my services or my products. And the ego starts to get in the way, right? We start freaking out about our own value, about whether it really, whether we're worth the other extra money. Like there's all of this craziness that happens in our head. And so there's a couple of things I want to just point out to you. First is you don't have to come in and redo your whole world in one day. You can step your prices up. For example, if you know you need to go from, $15 an hour to $25 an hour, you need to be going from 60 to 110, right? It depends on how you charge and what you do. You don't have to necessarily make that massive jump at once. You can step it up, and as new clients come in, you can raise the prices. So that's one way to do it. There are times in the year where clients expect the prices to go up: September, January, June. These are times when businesses often reassess and reevaluate their situation, and so they will make those changes. And these are some of the things you can do. One of the things that happened to me when I was raising my prices, I was on the phone with a client and I was kind of freaking out. I was bumping my prices up quite a bit. And so what I did was when she asked how much it was, I said the price and then I muted myself. So I couldn't undo it, because there's a tendency to immediately then go into discounting and, 10% off and give this away. And so I muted myself. So I just had to shush and let it sit. And she was 100% fine. She was like, oh yeah, that's fine. No problem. It's like, so sometimes we just have to get out of our own way. Now, if your challenge is that every sales conversation feels like the do or die, and that there's this massive pressure on every sales conversation, then you're going to want to go to Karen's talk on Thursday, because she's talking about authentic sales conversations. It's 8 in the morning. You'll find it right on the schedule. Oh, wait, I have a slide. So two things. So let me do this, go to this next slide. So Karen's conversation on Thursday is how to increase sales without the ick. And she's talking about authentic sales conversations. I also wanted to share with you that I have an e-course for $27 that walks you all the way through this whole pricing for prosperity process. How do you put the numbers together? I've got spreadsheets, I've got all the pieces. And so here, let me just throw the link into the chat. So, and if you want this, I'm happy to email it to you as well. So but I'll pop the link into the chat and you can see not only the pricing for prosperity course, which when I do it live with a group, it's way more than $27, but I wanted to be able to give it to get it in people's hands easily. So I put it into an e-course. And so it's really inexpensive to be able to just walk through that process. And thanks, Andrea. She also put the link in for Karen's talk. And then Karen, once you've had a chance to get to know Karen, who's my business partner, We also have a $27 course that teaches the next level of what she's teaching on Thursday. And the reason I really wanted to put these together is if you're changing your pricing, if you're feeling stressed about your pricing, you're probably also having challenges with your sales conversations. And so the two really go together. It's why we wanted to do these two talks this week, to make sure that people had skills in both of these areas and were able to put them together. So, when I send the slides out, you'll have access to this as well. Okay, so let's talk about one more piece. Let's talk about leveraging. One of the challenges that we get into as a business owner is we often get stuck in the busyness, right? We run out of time. Our days get so full and we run out of time. And so we want to look at are there ways that we can leverage? Let me just repost the link for the link for the courses. Oh, I see it went out to one person. Let me put it to everybody. There we go. There we go. So that's the link, and that link will take you to our free course around building e-learning, as well as the two courses I just talked about. So you can find all kinds of stuff there. Let's talk about leveraging yourself, because one of the challenges with money is once you've been in your business, a gateway area. Okay, let me get a better link. Let me try this one. If it doesn't work, I will. Is that the same? No. Oh, it worked for you, Rosanna? Can someone else tell me if the link is working for them? Oh, okay, good. Phew. Maybe it's some internal link for me. Okay, good. If it didn't work for you, put your email in and I'll make sure you get access to it directly, and I'll follow up with you. Okay, so leveraging. There are lots of ways you can leverage yourself to free up time so that you can create more revenue and also have more life. So one of the ways to leverage yourself is actually charge more. When you charge more, you end up with fewer clients at more money. And so that allows you to build a deeper relationship with each client. I love when I've got a client that's paying a lot, because I just end up giving them all kinds of extra stuff because I feel like we're in partnership. When I've underpriced, I end up feeling resentful of the time I have to go and spend with that client because I know that I didn't charge enough for what I was offering. And it ends up putting kind of a yucky taste on the relationship. So leverage yourself by charging enough so that you can create the space to work with the clients you really want. You can leverage yourself by creating packages. So depending on what you offer, you can package a bunch of things together, especially things that you don't have to create or show up for. So ebooks, great resources, e-learning, all kinds of stuff like that. When you offer a combination of things, then you have more time available to either work with other clients or work on your business or to go and have a life. And you can also work on retainer, you can work in groups. There's lots of different ways to leverage yourself. One of the ways that we help our clients leverage is we help them learn how to build e-learning. And so they'll do their client onboarding as an e-learning. So you don't have to spend all that time with a client, which frees up more space. They'll do e-learning for lead generation or to support their staff. So there's lots of different ways you can leverage yourself, which creates room for the financial give and take in your business. Okay, so let's talk about success habits. We've talked about a number of things today, and we've got about 9 minutes left. I'd like to finish up a bit early so everyone can go get a glass of water or a cup of tea before your next session. So I want to be able to just go through these last couple of habits, and I'd love for you guys, as I go through them, to put into the chat which one you're going to take on first. So the first one is review and reset. Oh, that's supposed to be reset. So that says review and reset. You can also rest because that's excellent. So when you review your whole financial sort of structure, you review your pricing and then reset it so that it actually works for you. Now, this is, like I said, this is a little bit of a process. And so you want to book some time for yourself. And I wouldn't necessarily try and sit down and do all of it in one day. Maybe book yourself a couple of hours over a couple of weeks to really spend the time. So that's success habit number one. Success habit number two is what we call our piece of cake policy. Now, in our business, we really spend the most of our time in the thing that is our piece of cake. And so when you look at your business and say, what are the things that are my piece of cake that I can just do like no tomorrow, that I love, that is easier and fun for me to do? And what are the pieces that aren't? And how can I either trade with another entrepreneur, build a community around me, hire somebody to do that? That's going to create space for you to be able to take on more clients, to do more work, to do other things, to have a life, to go on a holiday. So look at your own pieces of cake and what are the things that exactly, Trina, it's just like eat the frog, right? Like what are the pieces that you really love to do? And then the third piece is to build a team that you can count on. And I noticed there were a number of you that said, no, you don't have anybody on your money team. So this is a place where you maybe want to look. And whether it's a colleague that you're going to sit down together once a month and go through your numbers together and ask questions and go and figure out what you need to learn. Andrea's getting credit for the eat the frog. That's awesome. Or whether you're going to go and look for a money coach or a bookkeeper or an accountant, or you're going to go and talk to your small business center. There's lots of ways that you can build your team. So, okay, those are your three success habits. So put in the chat which one you are going to take on first. Are you going to review and reset or rest? Are you going to look at your piece of cake, or are you going to build a team? Awesome. Awesome. Good, good. I think if you start by building a team, then that gives you the foundation to be able to go and do some of these other things. This is great. Excellent. Review and rest. Love it. Review and reset. Good. Excellent. Yeah. And I'd love to take the last couple of minutes for questions. So what's better, an ebook or an e-course? How should they be priced lower so they seem appealing? Great question. So ebooks and e-courses are different, and it depends on what you're using them for. An ebook can be put together very quickly and can be shared out very easily. An e-course, to have something that's going to create the kind of learning transfer you want, does require a little bit more effort. So I say yes to both. So go and write your ebook and then use what you've written in your ebook to build out an e-course that provides a deeper learning experience so that people can get an experience of what it's like to work with you. This is one of the reasons I love the e-course, is it gives people an opportunity to get a sense of like, what's it going to be like, right? Even this time together we've spent this morning, you guys kind of have an idea of what it would be like to be in a working relationship with me, just from sort of how I showed up here. And when I do an e-course, it also gives people an opportunity to have an experience with me. So yes to both. And one is a quick turnaround, and the other one may take a little bit more time and effort. There's lots of things online that say build an e-course in a weekend. Honestly, it does take a bit more effort than that, and especially if you want it to be something that's going to create a real learning experience for your clients. What other questions do you have? Oh, how long are your e-course? Great question. We have ones the one that's for free on that link that I gave you. It takes about 45 minutes to go through the whole thing. We have other courses that like the Pricing for Prosperity course. You could probably watch all the videos in an hour, but to do the work, you're going to want to spend more time than that. And then we have courses that run over 4 to 6 weeks where we do it as a hybrid. So people go and do the learning on the e-course, and then we get together for Q&A and work through what projects they're actually working on. So it depends. It's often my answer with these things, is it depends on what's your outcome that you're looking for. Any other questions just as we wrap up? I'd love to just do a quick shout out, and I want to tell you the rest of my story. So I started off by talking about that speaker sheet. And what happened was I was talking to an organization that wanted us to speak, and I really wanted to give them kind of a deal because they're a community organization. And what I said to them was, our normal rate for pricing is X, which is what they had on the speaker sheet. But for this situation, I'd love to be able to do our community rate, which is Y. And she said, that would be awesome for this event. It'd be really great to have that lower price, but we have something coming up in January, and we can pay you your full rate for that. And I got off the phone. I was like, ah! It was so exciting because it was the first time we had really had that kind of feedback on our new pricing. So I want to just tell you, it's time for you to take a look at this, take that first success step. And I'm really, really pleased to have been here. So it is the Global Entrepreneur Week. Thank you so much for having me here. I know that there's some cool stuff coming up. Thank you, Andrea. We are also speaking on Friday. Karen and I are talking about the evolution of business success and some of the stuff that we've done in our business that's really different than the normal entrepreneurial story out there. I know Do It in Durham has a drop-in week. So if you're in the area, go and check them out. There's cool stuff. And these are the sponsors. So thank you so much.
That was awesome. Thank you. I'm ready to give yeah, that was fantastic. I love that. And finished perfectly on time.
I know. I meant to give you a little extra time, but it was just so much fun.
Yeah, awesome. So everybody, yeah, put in everything that's happening, let everybody know. Quickly get your promos in there. I mean, this is what it's all about. Do It in Durham is all about community and the entrepreneurship community in Durham region and beyond. Let's say that. So thank you, appreciate it. So yeah, it was fantastic.
Thank you for being a guest in this presentation. If you would like to book an appointment with us here at the Business Advisory Centre Durham, just follow the information right on the closing slide, and we look forward to seeing you.